Welcome back, lazy gamers, to ARA History Untold. Patch 1.2 just dropped on Steam as a preview, and while the notes aren't public yet, we are going to dive in to see what this update brings to the table. So among the things I noticed in the game settings, a checkbox for adaptive AI. The text says that the computer opponent's difficulty level will be adjusted based on how well the player is doing. With this setting on, I think I will play future games with locking the AI set difficulty to the same difficulty that I'm playing at, which will probably be either Duke or Grand Duke depending on my comfort level. I'm playing at 1440p with ultra settings on my graphics. And I did try playing at 4K. I'm not sure if this translates perfectly well into the YouTube videos, but when I play at ultra settings on 4K, and even though my graphics card is fully capable of it, I do notice that the motion is not quite as smooth. Yeah, regardless of how this appears on the videos that I put out, as far as gameplay is concerned, it does not make a great playing experience. For what it's worth, I'm going to try and play at ultra settings at 1440p. I did reduce the UI scale a little bit because I don't know if it was from the patch or... yeah, if things just looked bigger in the patch, so I just decided to put the UI scale down a bit. But I mean, depending on your individual needs, you might need to scale this up or down. So one of the most glaring changes that I've noticed is every civ has a unique unit. It's not a unique unit per leader, it's a unique unit per civilization. When you have a situation where Germany has two leaders here, they both get the same unique unit, but their main traits are slightly different. Yeah, same with Korea. But this is interesting. Some of these unique units are manifesting in Act 1. Some of them will manifest in Act 2, while some will actually be relevant in the later eras. Yeah, if you're planning for war in your games, I think it's very important to be thinking about who your opponents are and what the opponent's strengths are. I mean, for now, since we are very new to these new settings, there is going to be a decent learning curve. It does look like many of the core abilities of the leaders are changed now. So Eva Peron would get a major buff from building her palace. And it looks like that is gone. Now it's a flat 100% growth in all cities during golden ages and a 10% plus 10 quality of life stats in non-capital cities for 20 turns after completing a masterpiece. It's very interesting. Quality of life stats improvements in one or many cities after completing masterpieces. Even Korea, I think, has this ability where after completing a masterpiece, you get 100% craft production for 30 turns and 100% build production after gaining a paragon. You typically gain a paragon once every 50 turns, I think. So this could actually not be beyond our control. But generating masterpieces is well within our control. And depending on the civ in question, now if this is for 30 turns, we just want to make sure we are making one masterpiece at least once every 30 turns. And that should pretty much guarantee 100% craft production in perpetuity, as long as the masterpieces are getting built. Which means, I think, like specifically for Korea, if your first paragon getting plugged into making a masterpiece is going to be a very viable play. Yeah, everything seems to have changed, and there is we have to relearn or unlearn things here and relearn some stuff. But of all the leaders, I want to talk about two leaders. I'm sure there are more which might have some unique play styles, but there are two leaders who I'm very curious to try out because of how their traits have changed. Now, Yu Guansun gets 100% city production when average force health is below 40%. I wonder if let's say we create a wedge and we take it and we basically reduce its overall health to below 40%. Let's say, fighting a tiger or fighting something, some sort of predators. And we do not build any more military. That is the only military we keep, and its health is below 40%. Question is, will this 100% city production be active in perpetuity? I mean, I don't think this is a practical way to play because, without any military force, things will not end well, definitely on the higher difficulties. It's interesting that if we can just build one unit and keep it at 40% or less than 40%, we could actually become a production powerhouse. And it would be an interesting way to kind of, game the system here. But yeah, definitely a leader I want to try in one of my future games. Alexander looks like he's going to be one of the most interesting leaders for me in 1.2. He gets a plus 50 to all quality of life stats in the capital, but only while you are at your city cap. And there is plus 15 production to non-capital cities while at city cap. So I don't know if this magic works when you are exceeding the city cap. It definitely does not work when you are under the city cap. But in the beginning, you have a city cap of 3 or 2, and then at bronze working, you'll be at 3. You change your government, you will be at 4. If you build a palace, you will be at 5, and so on and so forth. Now, the magic here is to make sure that you always have a settler handy and you always have a military handy to always stay at your city cap. If you can manage that, you're going to get this plus 50 quality of life stats in your capital in perpetuity. Or you could get it in perpetuity. At least in the early game, this is huge on high difficulties. If you achieve this, later on with amenities, with the natural growth of cities and your empire, you will get your quality of life stats naturally to a very high number. Maybe build a few wonders. But in the early game, this plus 50, if you can manage this plus 50 quality of life stats in the capital and the plus 15 production to non-capital cities, yeah, this is quite huge actually. And it's definitely one of the leaders I want to try playing out. So it looks like there is this new quality of life stat called culture that is going to be in the game. I'm not entirely sure how, but when we fire up a test game, we can actually see what the effects are and how to use this in your games. But yeah, there are some leaders who actually get a culture benefit off the bat. In this case, Vilma Mankiller gets plus 2 culture per paragon in all cities when all paragons are tasked. A strategy here as the Cherokee is if you lean into paragons early and get many of them, yeah, you can actually generate a lot of culture. Now, what the exact benefits of that are going to be is still up in the air, but it's definitely worth it. And then there are civs that also, Vilma has this here where alliances are rewarded. Trade agreements have a reward. So Vilma gets plus 10 health in all cities for each active alliance, which if you are playing a game with 8 other civs and 4 of them are your friends and allies, that's like a plus 40 health in each city off the bat, which is actually quite huge. Because in my games, I have realized that health seems to be one of those quality of life stats that is actually not easy to raise. But if you want to keep your city growing and prospering, you need to keep your health high. Right. And Isabella here has something interesting too. She gets plus 10 production in non-capital cities at city tier 10 or less. So basically, her smaller cities, her less taller cities, as long as the city tier is 10 or less, she gets a production bump, which actually is going to be huge to get your new cities cranking out faster or developing faster. They won't grow, but they will actually be producing a lot of things very quickly. And she gets a plus 1 to all quality of life stats in the capital per city you control. So going wide and expansive is actually going to be the way to play. She gets a conquistador, which is a gunpowder unit. So I don't know if these unique units replace units in the game, or are they unique on their own. We will find that out soon enough. Yeah, Genghis Khan has changed. His cavalry benefit is, I think, gone. Plus 2 wealth for each unit engaged in combat. So you do get a passive benefit for just being at war and fighting. And 10 happiness and 20 prosperity in all cities for 40 turns after conquering a city. So in the perfect world, you want to be conquering a new city every 40 turns. And yep, Bob's your uncle. Here, Harriet Tubman, plus 10 happiness in each city for each active alliance. Again, you're rewarded for having more friends on the board than enemies. And even she gets a plus 5 quality of life stats in cities for 20 turns after gaining a paragon. Yeah, you're not going to gain a paragon every 20 turns. I think it's more like every 40 or 50 turns you do that. But this is interesting. This is actually quite strong because it applies to all cities and all quality of life stats. Egypt, yeah, Nefertiti still retains her plus 5 prosperity for each farm I think this is a broken ability in my opinion, but it looks like the other leaders actually have in the net. I think the other leaders seem to have will see a buff in this patch. So this may not be as huge as it was in the prior builds, but it remains to be seen how this plays out. But I think this is actually fantastic because you're going to have rivers in your empire, and having farms on them just gives your cities crazy prosperity. And +2 established relationship with other nations for each culture improvement. Okay, so that's fair enough. You have room to improve your relationships with your neighbors as long as you focus on culture. Yeah, Caesar gets research per alliance. And during a golden age, he can actually improve relationships with his neighbors. Which means, yeah, if you want to play a peaceful game, you want to try to get as many golden ages as possible, as quickly as possible. Interesting. Even these traits, pacifist, collaborative, stately, sage, aggressive, patient, traditional, these seem to have changed. 30% force strength when war weariness is over 50, which means you will actually be better at fighting the longer you are at war. And pretty much in the later third of the war that you are in is when you're going to be the most lethal as Tokugawa, which is quite good. It still appears that the appearance that the leader shows off as is purely cosmetic. And actually, honestly, if any game devs come across this video, make these mean something. The appearance, I don't know, maybe if there are 3 appearances possible, maybe give like a slight buff or a debuff or a change in a given act, for example, something. Like Sappho, for example, I don't know why she has 5 flavors. There is no real incentive for me to play as either one of these unless there was a tangible benefit or a change to how the game would evolve. So I really hope that each of these appearances leads to some real change in the games. So I mean, a game where if I play as blue Sappho versus as modern Sappho, if I have identical maps, identical settings for a game as either of these, I shouldn't expect them to go the same way. And that's just something to think about. I mean, of course, this might be more relevant later as we get more comfortable with 1.2, but I want an ability to sort. Like, I see all these traits: persuasive, creative, traditional, stately, efficient. Maybe there needs to be some sort of an interface change here that lets me sort through, instead of showing me all these leaders, show me only the leaders that have the efficient trait, for example. Or maybe show me all the leaders who don't have the rash trait, for example. The more games we play, we will get comfortable with each of the leaders' individual traits. But starting off, it does feel a little overwhelming, and having a sort screen or some sort of an interface change that helps you sort these traits or filter these traits will actually be very, very useful. Yeah, but at this point, I'm going to fire up a game as Alexander and see what I can do with him. The Greek unique unit is the Hoplite, which is actually available quite early at bronze working, and it has 10 strength, which I think it's stronger than a swordsman, definitely stronger than a spearman, but probably comparable to a swordsman, I think. But it is a anti-cavalry unit, and it's weaker against swordsmen, so I wonder how the horse balance would have changed in this patch. But just hoplites are purely defensive, or will be very strong defensive forces, I think. For any sort of offensive capability, you will need siegecraft and some sort of cavalry. His main traits are aggressive, adventurous, disciplined, and rash. Immediately after declaring a war, he gets 50% force strength for 5 turns. Okay, that's fine. Force speed while not at war is probably can be useful. Things can move faster around the map. And cities gain 5 culture for each military improvement. Okay. So we want to be prioritizing fortresses and watchtowers. Watchtowers early, and then leaning into barracks. Probably a blacksmith first, but barracks and fortresses and citadels eventually. And it'll all end in an armory. Every city should actually have an armory. We should be generating a lot of culture that way, I think. And rash is negative. This is a debuff. The golden ages are not accumulated faster, But once you hit them, you get 10 production during the golden ages. May not be as important, but let's see. We're trying out. Let's see what happens. This is going to be a fun one. Our strategy is going to be always, we will try to build a military and see if we can kind of be war ready at any given time. But the main aim of the game is to always keep the city cap, or rather always be at the city cap. In anticipation of all the things that are going to raise my city cap, I need to have like settlers handy to settle down to make sure that I'm not violating this rule. Because yeah, in the perfect game, I would like to keep these stats, these 50% plus 50 quality of life stats in the capital and the production benefit in the non-capital cities at a permanent level, pretty much through the game if I can manage it, and see how that works out. Oh, this is fantastic. So we see zone counts for the regions that we see. This is going to be extremely useful when we are planning out future expands. Checking out the interface changes here, and yeah, we do see that influence thing on the right there. This is interesting. We can use this influence in one of two ways. We can use it to claim regions when we don't have typically when your population grows, you will claim the regions accordingly. But you can also grow using influence straight away, or you can use it to, this is very similar to how the religion benefits accumulate. Right, but the zone counts are actually going to be very useful. I mean, all you got to do turn one is to take a look at what you see, and you pretty much can make an informed decision as to which tile you'll be growing to first. This is going to be so much better and easier. I'm just taking a quick look at the supplies for the Great Hearth, and doesn't look like it's any different than before. Although it does feel like it's different. I think things have moved around. I don't know exactly how, but I think the basics pretty much stay. We need a rope in there and maybe the odd candle or wine that we can pick up from a resource stash. That might help the city. And we have the culture quality of life stat now. Okay. Culture reflects the richness and distinctiveness of the way of life of your population. A culturally vibrant society produces more influence each turn, okay? Helping to shape the world around them. Increase culture by placing culture improvements or utilizing amenities that boost culture in cities. So that's pretty much our MO here. So the influence is the currency and culture is the quality of life metric. As far as the rest of the game, I think I will just continue playing on as I normally do. And as and when I run into something that feels different or distinct, I will comment on it. Okay. I think animal husbandry first is fine. Where the hell is rope making? Okay, so it looks like okay, this might, maybe I rushed into the game a little too soon. Yeah, maybe this is not going to be as simple as I think I thought it would be, because it looks like the tech tree is different now. Yeah, the point I made about needing to unlearn and relearn a bunch of things, it's going to be extremely important, because yeah, the tech tree looks to have changed. Things are not in the spot that I knew they were. And I'm pretty sure the game is going to feel like a whole new game at this point. At least, I mean, I don't see too many mechanics in the way we play. That's different. I think that looks pretty much the same, which is good. I grew to that 2-zone region expecting to put down a wonder, but now I'm not sure anymore. I don't know which wonder I can build. Looks like there is a UI glitch here. I think when I zoom in, yeah, that barrel disappears. Not sure what's going on there, but yeah, there is definitely something glitchy. Like I thought I saw, okay, I do see 4 predators now near my scout, and I'm not sure what's going on here. I thought I saw some of them disappear. Yeah, there you go. Okay, either they're disappearing or they are moving, or maybe, yeah, but honestly this sounds more like a bug to me. I think there is a visual glitch with resource stash icons appear and how the predator icons appear. I think we are seeing a bug here. Like if I don't see it, how do I click on it? Okay, as long as I can see it, I can click on it. But if I move the mouse, if I move around too much and too fast and the icons disappear on me, I may not be able to do the things that I want to do at the time that I want to do it, which might be a bit of a pain in the ass, but let's see. I mean, this is a preview build. I'm expecting that there will be some bugs, but all right. I mean, the land around my capital doesn't look very resource rich, but the extended land definitely feels like it has a good amount of resources. So I think we'll be fine. Okay, let's find out where Stonehenge is now. Oh, good God. Stonehenge is unlocked by weaving, and ropes are unlocked at weaving. Oh. Okay, so ropes unlock much later for us. So going workshop first was I mean, I don't know if the event, the kind of events you get are different now or they'll stay the same, but I'm assuming if they are the same, then you're gonna get lithic tools and baskets soon enough. So going workshop first, especially if you can't build anything new or different, is kind of pointless. So yeah, so definitely a note to self here. In future games, prioritize. I mean, a workshop is important, but it is not important like a turn, like you need to start it at turn 1. As Greece, I think getting settlers out as early as possible and trying to reach your city cap as fast as possible is extremely paramount. But I feel along with like settlers, I think I need more scouts. Okay, the paragons look like they are about the same as before. Yeah, this is a test game, so I'm not too worried about where I settle and what resources I am settling near or what I'm prioritizing, because yeah, I just want to get a feel for what things are different here. We will be at our city cap, but I think I will try to pre-build my settlers as Alexander and make sure that the moment I have the ability, I am actually at my city cap pretty much from the get-go. At some point with this strategy, when I am challenged for land, when I do not have room to expand, that is when I will need to lean into war to expand my empire. In fact, the way to play this is kind of the other way, where the number of cities you control, or rather choosing a government that best fits how wide your empire is going to be the way to play here, I think, as Alexander. The tribal village mechanic doesn't seem to be different here, I think. Not seeing anything out of the ordinary. I do need one more settler though to reach my city cap. Actually more. I will need, when I hit bronze working, my city cap will go up one more. Yeah, this is gonna be challengingly interesting. Yeah, this might be challenging. I don't think this is going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be. So the thing with the crafting queues in the workshops, and in fact pretty much anything, is I know that there is some sort of overflow loss that you may have to deal with. But I've realized that if I set things to infinite, which is what you should do if you want to never have any overflow loss. But more often than not, I find myself forgetting, switching these things around. And yeah, I think I will accept the overflow loss going forward and set like hard limits on how many things I want to be crafting. I think it just makes for an easier gameplay. I think in the long run, the game devs should probably fix the overflow either fix it or essentially state it that, yeah, if you change the build queue, you will lose the overflow, and that's it. And that's fine. I mean, as long as it's known upfront, players can kind of adapt. But yeah, but if it is not known, or they can just essentially credit that overflow no matter what, and that'll also solve the problem really. Yeah, but going forward, I think whether it gets fixed or not, I think it's just easier to manage exact counts. I want to craft like 5 lithic tools and then 5 baskets, wait to see what else I want to be doing, instead of having an infinite queue the way I have it right now. It does get a little hard to manage. I think when you're dealing with like 4 or 5 buildings, it's fine and manage it. But when you have like 30 of them spread all over a wide empire, it's not feasible. You're not going to remember. Things are going to get away from you. All right. So I still don't have my 3rd settler. If I go to bronze working, I'm going to raise my city cap. So I think I should not go to bronze working as early as possible. I think I'm going to turtle my way through the rest of the text here and try to build my 4th settler before I get to bronze working. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. Yeah, food becomes a limiting factor if in this situation, because without food, or without like a large surplus of food, you will not have room to build enough settlers in time to make sure you want to get to your city cap as soon as possible. And I think the main thing as Alexander is to reach your city cap ASAP. So like food is more important than anything else in the early game. Yeah, this is a Duke difficulty game, so things should be easier overall, but honestly I don't remember if this is Duke or Grand Duke. But alright, so festivals are available very early. That's interesting. That's actually very interesting, because festivals are like the better version of feasts. Okay, but the problem with festivals is the accelerators it needs are... So you need to have some sort of a refined supply chain set before you can lean into festivals very easily. So in the perfect world, I would love to have a situation where I have a supply of bread or cured meats. I have a supply of fabrics and other things, maybe syrups and pastries or something else. But that'll just make sure I'm getting my festivals out sooner. But until then, I think feasts have to make do. And feasts are good. I mean, feasts are fine, but festivals are so much better. Yeah, in future games, I think a little bit of planning and I would be able to manage very early festivals. That will definitely make the games go better. We have to relearn like what supply chains help, what kind of industry and that sort of thing. Right, so we are at our city cap. And our stats are like almost close to 100, if not at 100, which is actually fantastic. So, okay, the magic sauce as Alexander is to make sure that we always stay at this number. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. Like I'm already imagining like a deity or a emperor level game. You start off at 30 city stats, right? So with plus 50, you will have a baseline of 80 at emperor. And with a few amenities, maybe a wonder or two, you will be pushing many of these quality of life stats over 100. And more importantly, the culture stat goes from 0 to, oh wow. Okay, so just getting to the city stats thing, we are actually generating a good amount of culture that we weren't before. That is actually huge. I got to keep my eye on that influence meter. When it gets to a number that I can kind of cash it in, I will do it. And yeah, and I think the plan is to try to stay at the city cap until I get the 2nd settler out, or the 4th settler out rather. And we met a neighbor, which means that we should try and keep some military handy here. Yeah, I think let's prioritize some sort of an armed force. And yeah, Russia is like just to the south of us. So we have, having a neighbor means we have options to expand instead of settle if we want to reach our city cap. Although I think settling is definitely easier. Yeah, I can't imagine that if you exceed your city cap, you will get this benefit. Things will be absolutely broken if this plus 50 quality of life stat actually applies to the capital if you are above your city cap. I'm hoping that is not the case, but we will find out at some point. I think there's a bug here. I think I do have the craft queue set in the ceramic shop, but typically you see that icon on the bottom right of the crafter and I don't see it here. Yeah, it feels like it's a bug. Even though if we can't settle, let's just make sure that we have settlers ready. We'll have bronze working in like 6 turns, so I definitely want to be ready to settle before I get to bronze working. The moment I have bronze working and my city cap goes up, I want to settle the turn that option is available to me. Okay, I could be wrong here. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but when my scout clears the predators, I do get like a food, feast, leather, some other rewards. When I cleared the predators with my spearman, I did not see a reward. I gotta test this out. We gotta check. On a given turn, I want to try and kill something and see if I get any rewards from it. Yeah, I might have missed it when I saw it before, but if scouts are the only things that can get you like loot from clearing predators and like your military cannot, yeah, there's no loot. While removing some predators, you found nothing. Okay. What this means is scouts become extremely important if you are relying on loot from predator kills. Pretty much this guarantees that you want to go scout first in every game. Maybe even 2 scouts. There is so much value in having them running around in the early game. Yeah, the paragons all look the same to me. I think, let's just pick one and move on. Like when I said same, I meant same as the previous build. I don't see any significant difference in at least what the paragons give you. A large chunk of the game feels very similar to the prior patches, but there are definitely things that are different here. Like a quick recap here, I think we need to relearn the tech tree. We need to rethink our initial build order. We probably need to rethink because the tech tree is different, we have to rethink how and when we want certain techs. I think I'm still far away from gauging which techs are going to be more important than the others. It feels like right now all of them, if I don't have the city cap constraint in my mind, I think I would still try to prioritize which techs I get based on the land that I have. But as Alexander, I have to consider this additional city cap requirement if I want to keep my city stats high, my quality of life stats high. I really need to think. I think the overall decision making tree as Alexander is going to be very, very different than if I'm playing any other leader. So my units can't upgrade into a hoplite. I do have the hoplite available to build, which I probably will. I probably build a couple here, or at least a few. But my spearman can't upgrade into hoplites. My spearman can only upgrade into a swordsman, and I think they can kind of de-upgrade back if I wanted to. So it looks like the unique units don't have an upgrade path. Once I have the units deployed, I will have to check this out. But I can't upgrade an existing spearman into a hoplite, which might be a problem. I'm not noticing anything different here with the battle formations. I think we still have the same lines, wedges, and defaults configurations. There is something that is changed on a subtle level. I mean, we'll eventually get used to it, but I don't notice any difference here. And just like that, we are back at our city cap. Yeah, it's still, we lose out a turn. I don't think you can keep the plus 50 quality of life stats. Yeah, it's always going to be one turn where you lose that ability until your city cap registers the next turn, and then you get the ability back. And I think that's it's an acceptable loss, I think. Yeah, I mean, in the perfect world, you would want to keep this going in perpetuity, right? Like before I started playing, when I had read about this quality that Alexander has, I kept thinking that, okay, this might be an OP kind of a strat. But I don't think that anymore. I think the strat is powerful, right? This ability is extremely powerful. But on higher difficulties especially, it's not going to be easy playing games where you are keeping your city cap or you are keeping your empire exactly at your city cap for most of the game. I think that's going to be extremely hard to manage. I think with enough playthroughs and with enough understanding, or as you get better at the game, it will get easier. But I don't think it's going to be the easiest mechanic to kind of master. But yeah, but it's only after like repeat playthroughs that you will realize how good and how powerful this exactly is. All right, the free tech event gives us wheel irrigation and trading. No chariots. No chariots. Okay, so wheel is okay. So everything that the old chariots tech was giving us is now available at wheel. Since we have horses, I think it makes sense to go there. So I gotta be careful here when I'm taking through things, because I will want to build a palace. Maybe not in my capital, because the quality of life stats that the palace can bring me may not be as important in the capital, but maybe in a secondary city. But if I'm doing that, I'm going to raise my city cap. If I change my governments, I'm going to raise my city cap. So I just need to have these settlers pre-built and ready to go when that city cap keeps moving up. I mean, it's so easy to forget that that's what you're doing. Right. So there are a couple of different ways you can use culture here, or the influence points. You can use them to claim regions, or you can get like traits, culture traits for your empire. And I could be wrong here, but these culture traits feel very, very similar to the benefit that religions give you. Like when you found a religion, when you have those follower beliefs, you kind of keep getting them every once in a while. And this mechanic feels very similar. Yeah, the influence is the currency here, and it allows you to unlock these benefits for your empire. I don't know if there is a uniqueness between the traits that you get in this cultural benefit stack versus the one in the religion ones. I'm going to assume that they're all the same, and they are pulled from the same pool of benefits. But it's only after multiple playthroughs that it'll be apparent how good or bad this actually is. Pretty much like any other game of this class. Collect things and spend things. I think Alexander, simply because he can raise his city cap, or rather he can raise his quality of life stats, and that affects culture, I think that's giving him an outsized ability to generate influence points. Yeah, I think that aspect might be a little broken. I think if we are generating culture in a far more outsized fashion than the other civs, than the other leaders, I think then definitely that would require a nerf of some kind. In prior versions, right, when you rush Stonehenge, you can raise. You maybe rush Stonehenge, maybe rush one more wonder somewhere close to middle of Act 1, and you have some decent amenities in place, and you have your city stats at least like maybe not all quality of life stats won't be at 100 at the higher difficulties, but you will have like most of them over 50 and some of them close to 100, and that's at like the higher difficulty levels where it's harder to manage these quality of life stats. But as Alexander, if you're going to get to close to 100 right off the bat, it makes the wonders less important. So I wonder how we want to be playing as Alexander in the long run. It makes for a strong capital. It makes for a strong, all the nerfs that the higher difficulties get, or the demerits that you start off with, are pretty much nullified by Alexander's ability. So I would say Alexander is not the right leader to play in the early, when you're learning this game, because he requires a very special, unique play style. I think if you're new to the game and you're experimenting or you're learning the game, I think picking some other generic leader is going to be far better. I think if you are locking in your game memory and muscle memory, I think Alexander is probably not the right leader to play as. But I don't know who the right leader is. I'm going to hazard a guess here and try and pick Maybe either some leader that is focused on science exclusively, or maybe focused on culture exclusively. But I mean, Alexander's culture is just going to be crazy. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts here. Since we have weaving, and I think I will try and lean into my palace from this point on. But since we have weaving, I think I'm going to try and build a wonder just because I don't think I need it. I don't need the wonder in any of my in my capital at least. The benefits, the quality of life stat benefits that the wonder is going to give me are not going to be impactful here. But I want to try and build it because I want to see, because this would be the first time I... Normally, rushing Stonehenge in the previous patches was actually a very viable strat. But now since Stonehenge is kind of moved down the track, in fact ropes have moved further down the tech tree. So I wonder if, getting Stonehenge later is not as impactful as getting it as early as possible. But even though, since we have weaving and we have the ability to get Stonehenge, I think I should try for it. If not Stonehenge, maybe some other wonder that I can, but it should be something I try for. Alright, so religions. Okay, I don't think anything is different here. If you pick Hellenism, we get the Sacred Temple, and the Sacred Temple needs a bunch of candles. I have no idea whether it's easier to make candles now or make concrete now. But let's say if we switch, if we try different religions, and if we pick the Gurudwara needs concrete. What you need to make these buildings hasn't changed. And the benefits these give you haven't changed either. They all give you the same benefit really, and it doesn't matter which one is part of your religion. But it does, they are constructed or crafted, or you need different things to actually make them or to build them. Combination of candles and concrete or both. I don't know. I think let's just pick the default Hellenism and see what happens. Maybe candles are easier to build in this from this point on. I know if typically in past games, if you have a large chunk of ceramic shops in your empire, it is extremely easy to lean into concrete, and you will get a good amount of concrete later. And if you have the ceramic industry, if you have a mature ceramic industry, it is great. And it looks like we have I don't know if this is a bug, but I'm seeing, yeah, they are identical. I don't know. Let's just pick one. I don't know if that's explicitly a bug, but I think it will need some sort of a balance change. We have the ability to switch to theocracy, and I think I will, because I can put down a new city. I do have the city cap or the settler ready to settle. It's fine. I think that's a decent enough ability. And next turn, when my city cap goes up, I will settle that city down. And then we will repeat the same process when we build the palace. So pretty much like close to middle of Act 1, you are going to be at 5 cities. If by any chance you end up getting Nemruddag, you will be at 6 cities. I think in the early game, Alexander will do really well if he has a lot of room to expand or to settle cities down. In my proper games, the more I play Alexander eventually, I'm going to try and lean into settling cities far more than actually conquest. I mean, in this particular game, I think at some point, even if I have the room to expand my way into keeping my city cap maxed out, I think I'm going to try and lean into war just to see if there is anything new with the war mechanics and how war plays. We know that siegecraft is going to be more relevant for taking down cities, while cavalry is less so. We have the unique units, which should be fun to kind of play with. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think at some point I just want to declare war on Russia and see what happens. What's the saying? Never fight a land war in Asia? I don't know if that's a whole Russian thing or not, but I don't care. I'm Alexander and I'm going to do it. I'm not expecting it to end successfully, but I'm definitely going to try. And the AI still has this propensity for growing tiles in a very, very weird fashion. I mean, it almost feels like the game is programmed, or the AI is literally programmed to force conflict upon the human player. The Russian city is 3 tiles away from my settle, and that is fine. I mean, it's not, that's kind of normal actually. Russia had 2 tiles to expand into, and it basically ended up picking the tile right next to my city center. That's annoying. I think this is by design though. It's meant to evoke rage at the AI for doing what it did and plan a retribution. But I think this exact behavior the AI does, I think it should not be like prevalent. I think it should be a coin flip at the game start, where this ability should be something that not all AI civs do. It could vary from game to game, from leader to leader, but if every AI civ is going to do this, that's just going to get annoying. I mean, it's going to be it's going to feel like fun and impactful in your early playthroughs, but it's going to quickly get annoying and predictable and boring eventually. Maybe every third game that you play, if you experience this, I think it is tolerable. But if it happens in every game, no. Yeah, there are definitely some interface changes here. And I'm sure there are changes in the economy screen and the other screens up here. But as and when I notice something impactful, I will definitely keep noting it down. But yeah, I think we are seeing this bug again. I know there is a creature there right next to in that city. There is a wolf in Virginia that is invisible right now. Because when I click on the city screen, the game is telling me that it's there. And there, it appears and it disappears. I see it now, and it's gone now. Yeah, this is annoying. It's there. Okay, there's definitely something buggy going on here. Usually the game has been pretty good about like showing the right animals in the right spot where the icons say it is supposed to be, but there is definitely something weird going on here. Because in the tile, in the zone that the game says there is a wolf, visually, like I'm zooming in, but I can't see a wolf there. But there is a wolf in a different region here, or a different zone in a different region. But there is no wolf icon on top of it. So I just wonder what kind of... yeah, it's definitely a bug of some kind. I don't know what it is, but... I don't know if it's a visual bug or a gameplay bug, but it's definitely something off that will need to be fixed. Alexander is going to be a fun civ or a fun leader to min-max with, specifically for his crazy ability. Like, I mean, if you look at my quality of life stats right now, and you know that this is like very early in Act 1, we are barely in the Iron Age right now. And 4 of my 6 quality of life stats are at 100, and my security is at 95, and my culture is at 50. I mean, what more would I want? I mean, this wouldn't feel like a deity game or an emperor game if this was an emperor game. I mean, you have pretty much nullified the nerfs that the higher difficulties get off the bat. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop the gameplay at this point here. The changes in the preview build are, some of them are fantastic, and I'm totally looking forward to this as part of the larger release. But the way it is, the state it is in right now, I do think that it needs a little bit of work before you can play a deeper game or a more involved game with the new mechanics. Because the one thing with the Predators is, I mean, if things are buggy in the sense that you can't really... If you see something and if it is not really there, or worse yet, if you don't see it, but there is something on the map that's affecting your gameplay, that's just going to mess things up. And that is not going to make for a great gameplay experience. We don't have a date yet for when this patch is going to be publicly released, but it does look like there are a bunch of bugs that need to be fixed here. I'll keep checking in and playing random games, but I'm not entirely... Until I can play through at least 1 or 2 games successfully without any obvious issues, I probably will not put out any more like full gameplay content. But do stay tuned for like guide videos and other things, and definitely some more Civ 6 stuff. Thank you for watching, and yeah, tune into the next one.